David? Yeah, he gave us a thumbs up.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, yes, good morning. How nice to be here. Welcome, everyone. My name is David Howell, and I am our worship associate for this morning. I was thinking this morning, we really do pride ourselves on being an inclusive church and a welcoming church, and something that we think about all the time on how to welcome. I got up this morning watching Washington Journal and the news stations. This is not a welcoming world. It's nice to come and spend an hour, which we're so serious and we value so much, trying to be one body even when we disagree with each other together. Oh yes, and my pronouns are he and him. That's part of being a welcoming service. There are announcements in this order of service, and you can read them all yourself. We did happen to notice that what it says on the outside is different than what it says on the inside. We didn't quite get to change all of that. Ellen will be doing the service today, and I'm sure doing a beautiful job. So, let us invite the singing bowl to sound. Ellen asked me if I would like to do this, and of course I do like to do it, so stop, relax, take a nice, deep, refreshing breath. And we will do our first hymn together. Ellen?
So this morning we're going to start with Gathered Here, which is number 389 in the hymnal. We're going to be very brave with a lot of our singing this morning. So we're going to go ahead and try this as a round. We'll sing it through one time together, and then we will do it as a round. This side of the room to my right, we'll do we'll start, and then this side will come in on the second part. But
are we going 2 or 3? So there's like 4 parts in here.
Oh, I don't have a book. Two, yeah. But on this side, we're just starting off first. And we're going to do it all together once. All the way through. All the way through once. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near.
Spirit, draw near.
That sounded wonderful.
Yes. You're more talented than we thought we were.
We work together.
Let's see, we're ready for the chalice.
Yes. So the service today will be about the history of the chalice. Ellen is going to light this and have a couple of readings. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark for all this within each of us. Ellen has already lit the central chalice. Also this morning, we light our community candles. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the tragic massacre at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, on June 12, 2016. In one of the deadliest mass shootings in our history, 49 people were killed and more than 50 were wounded. The Pulse Dance Club was a vibrant center for LGBTQ social life, and in fact, several of the victims were members of the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. We light this candle to honor the memory of all those who died that night, and with compassion for all those involved and their families. We also light a candle, regretfully recognizing that gun violence has become a worsening epidemic in our country, affecting us all.
Well, as I said, we're gonna live bravely and dangerously this morning when it comes to our music. Maybe put us a little bit out of our usual comfort zones, but we sort of thought we would try to mix things up a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. So instead of having music played while the offering is taken, we, the congregation, are going to sing. And we're going to sing a call and response that most of you, or at least some of you, I'm sure, have heard. All you have to do is follow along with what David and I say. Basically, the words are, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. We give thanks for this precious day.
And we will do it twice.
And we'll do it twice. And remember that our offering goes for the work of this congregation, both here and in the wider community. And our Share the Plate partner for this quarter is the Worthy Now Prison Ministry Network. And those of you who are joining us virtually, I believe, have ways there on your screen to contribute as well. And you can join us in singing too from home. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Thank Thank you. I thought that was lovely too. Yeah. It's always good to kind of, help us look around and think about what we're doing if by changing things up just a little bit. So actually we've changed quite a bit up this morning. We needed to make some adjustments in our worship schedule for various reasons. This was supposed to be our Pride service, and we will definitely still have our Pride celebration Sunday, but that will be the last Sunday in the month, 2 weeks from today. And I think David sort of introduced me. I think most people here know me, but just in case you don't, and maybe some folks online don't, my name is Ellen Greenwood, and it's my privilege to get to speak this morning. I'm a member of the worship team here. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about our flaming chalice. Now, those of you who attended last week's service, either in person or virtually, may remember that we had a bit of a chalice malfunction. And you may remember that Reverend Carroll wove the failure of our actual chalice to light into a beautiful reminder that our flaming chalice is simply a representation of the light that shines within each of us, that spark that we nurture by coming together in this community. And personally, I was reminded of how much I love the story and the history of the flaming chalice of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. In fact, I spoke about the chalice a couple of years ago when we were having one of our outdoor services, and so I will probably repeat myself somewhat, and I apologize, but I think it's a powerful story that we need to remind ourselves of from time to time. We begin every worship service by lighting the chalice and reading some words that reflect the meaning of the service to come. In a worship setting, lighting the chalice signals the entry of the gathered community into a sacred space. We often light the chalice for other activities, committee meetings, board meetings, discussion groups, even Zoom discussion groups. I know our Thursday night group has a lot of fun with our chalice, and each one of us, or several of us, have very special ways of doing it when it's their turn to light the chalice from home. But this reminds us that anytime we gather as a community, we create sacred space. Additionally, we see artistic representations of the flaming chalice on banners and stoles, on posters and pamphlets. If you walk around this building, just in various little corners, you're going to see some depiction of a chalice. We have one of our banners up here this morning, and it obviously has a chalice. This one I think is particularly nice because the chalice is made from hands that are held to hold the flame. And then this one I found in the back and thought that was a very beautiful, colorful representation of the chalice. Our banners that hang behind me, I believe were designed especially for West Side by an artist who either was a member here or who had friends here long ago. And the design there is of the chalice evolving into a dove, and that's, I think, become a special depiction of the chalice for West Siders. It's also the basic design of this very old t-shirt that I'm wearing this morning. Many of us have chalice jewelry that we wear from time to time. Basically, we seem to have chalices everywhere. In fact, if you join us in 2 weeks For our Pride service, we will have some temporary chalice tattoos that you can try out. I've seen a number of people with very nice real tattoos that were chalices. Some of us are too scared of needles for that, so we'll have some temporary ones. Many UUs have their own personal spiritual practices that include lighting a chalice in their home. One of my most prized possessions is a ceramic chalice that my son, Andy Galt, made for me years ago. Around the base are inscribed the words unity, family, peace, and love. And although we don't necessarily light the chalice with great ceremony, it has illuminated many of our family gatherings over the years, and its very personal history gives it special significance to me. And we know that symbols can have power. They can have powerful significance. Symbols acquire this power through history and our interpretation of history. Although the flaming chalice did not officially become a symbol of the Unitarian Universalism until after the merger of the Unitarians and the Universalists in 1961, it has a long and meaningful history, and I mean extremely long. In 1415, before anybody ever heard of a Unitarian or a Universalist, in 1415, a Czech priest, Jan Hus, was burned at the stake. His crimes were these. He preached in the Czech language rather than Latin. This made his sermons popular and thus suspect. He said that individuals should be allowed to read the Bible for themselves. He criticized the wealth of the Catholic Church. And during Mass, he shared the communion chalice with the people rather than preserving it for the clergy. Hus said that sharing the chalice meant that the common people were just as holy as the priest. He was declaring, as Unitarian Universalists do today, that all people have equal access to the divine. After his death, Hus's followers combined the chalice that he shared and the flame of his execution, creating the flaming chalice as a symbol in Czechoslovakia of religious freedom. Although Jan Hus was neither a Unitarian nor a Universalist, I think it's appropriate that we have adopted a symbol that historically represents religious freedom and individual spiritual inspiration. The flaming chalice became a symbol directly related to Unitarianism in 1941, shortly after the Unitarian Service Committee was founded, and it was founded to assist people in Eastern Europe who were in danger of being imprisoned or killed by the Nazis. The director of the Unitarian Service Committee was a Unitarian minister, the Reverend Charles Joy. Reverend Joy set up headquarters in Lisbon, Portugal, as Lisbon was the only port in Europe in the early 1940s that was open and was the preferred destination for millions of refugees. Since many of the refugees fled without any identification papers that they would need to cross borders, the Lisbon office began creating and issuing travel documents. Now, the USC, the Unitarian Service Committee, was an unknown organization in 1941. This was a special handicap in this cloak and dagger world where establishing trust and doing it quickly across borders of language and nationalities and faith could mean life instead of death. Disguises, signs, and countersigns, and midnight runs across guarded borders were the means of freedom for the people that they were trying to help. Reverend Joy asked Hans Deutsch, an Australian artist and a refugee living in Lisbon, to create a symbol for their papers to, as Joy wrote to Deutsch, to make them look official, to give dignity and importance to them, and at the same time symbolize the spirit of our work. For his drawing, Deutsch borrowed an old symbol of strength and freedom from Czechoslovakia, reflecting the story of Jan Hus, a chalice and a flame, which he drew in pen and ink. Reverend Joy wrote to his friends in Boston that the new symbol seemed to show the real spirit of the Unitarian religion. It showed a chalice or a cup that was used for giving a healing drink to others, and it showed a flame on top of the chalice because a flame was often used to represent a spirit of helpfulness and sacrifice. And so the flaming chalice became the design and the symbol of the Unitarian Service Committee. It was made into a seal for papers and a badge for agents moving refugees to freedom. It became a symbol of safety for refugees wary of whom they could trust. One woman is said to have told how the flaming chalice of the relief workers helped her while she was imprisoned in a Nazi prison camp. Printed under the picture of the Czech chalice was the motto, Pravda vědcí, which means in English, truth overcomes, or truth prevails. Every single morning in the terrible camp, the woman said, she traced a picture of a flaming chalice in the sand with her finger, and then she wrote that motto underneath it. It gave me strength to live each day, she said. And for a more detailed account of the work of the Rescue Committee, and of the Unitarian Service Committee and their rescue work, if you have a chance, you should take a look at the story of the Reverend Waitstill Sharp and his wife, Martha Sharp, who risked their lives to rescue scores of Jews and other refugees, especially many children. A few years ago, PBS aired a Ken Burns documentary on the Sharps entitled Defying the Nazis, The Sharps' War. And I know that we have a copy. It's in a DVD form, if anybody has a DVD player. We have one here at Westside. I'm not quite sure where it is, but over the next week or so, I think we'll try to find that and make it available in case someone would like to watch it. Eventually, the chalice design formed the basis of the American Unitarian Association's official logo. And then after Unitarianism and Universalism merged in 1961 to become the UUA, the symbol acquired two overlapping circles to represent each of those traditions. Many renditions of the flaming chalice from the time of the merger featured a small cross off-center in the circles. This signified how Universalism and Unitarianism had grown out of the Christian tradition, but was still held open to a world of other possibilities and even unanswered questions. And we're unsure how it came to pass that the two-dimensional image that was used on papers and documents and literature throughout the UUA, we're unsure how that two-dimensional image transformed into a three-dimensional object that we use in worship. But one possibility, and I particularly like this one, so this is the one I choose to believe, is that the path leads through children's RE programs. Curricula used in the late 70s stressed the meaning of the chalice and encouraged children to make chalices in different media. Eventually, those chalices morphed into objects that could be lit. Obviously, because kids always like to play with fire, right? The first documented uses of chalices in the main sanctuary are from Sundays on which children and youth led worship and demonstrated their practice to the adult congregation. How wonderful to think that a children's craft captured the imagination of an entire denomination. For me, the history behind the flaming chalice gives that chalice profound significance. But it is important to remember, because we are UUs, that no one meaning or interpretation of our flaming chalice is official. One thing it means for certain is that wherever you see a flaming chalice, there are probably UUs nearby. Like our faith, it stands open to receive new truths that pass the test of justice and compassion. When Deutsch designed the flaming chalice, he had never seen a Unitarian or a Universalist church or heard a sermon. What he had seen was faith in action, people who were willing to take great risks for others in a time of urgent need. So, for most of us, our flaming chalice is a call to action. One of the aspects that I love most about Unitarian Universalism is our long history of deeds, not creeds. For some time now, we here at Westside, especially since COVID, we've been reconsidering how we can best put our faith into action. Our Welcoming Congregation Committee is expanding its focus to include such areas as reproductive justice and racial justice. Our Green Sanctuary program is being revitalized. Next Sunday, Reverend Carroll will speak about intersectionality, how we must begin to address a wide range of issues through our relationships to one another. It is absolutely vital for the life of our congregation that we continue to live our values. Along with an increased awareness of our responsibility to speak out on justice issues, unfortunately, comes a heightened awareness that we must consider the risk. The chalice, a vessel for drinking, was first given a flame to represent the fire of sacrifice as Jan Hus was burned to death. Those Unitarian rescue workers in Eastern Europe in the 1940s risked their personal safety to save others. Unitarians and Universalists who joined the civil rights movement in the 1960s undertook dangerous, life-threatening work. Nowadays, we honor and celebrate the lives of Viola Liuzzo and the Reverend James Reeb, two Unitarians who were killed in Selma, Alabama, working for voting rights. And these are extreme examples. But we need living supporters of compassion and justice much more than we need martyrs. Recently, the UUA circulated resources on safety concerns, especially aimed at the month of June, which is Pride Month, to its religious professionals and urged them to share these resources with congregational leaders. And Reverend Carroll has been sharing those resources with some of us. We know that ultra-conservative views on social issues are gaining momentum and that right-wing hate is targeting more liberal groups, such as UU congregations. One of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons for postponing our Pride service until June 25th is to give us time to do a bit of a safety assessment and adjust our plans accordingly. Personally, I feel that the upsurge of what I definitely consider hate speech and hate legislation also makes it more vital that we speak out. So we have some hard decisions to make. These are decisions that, on one level, we have to make individually, but because the voice of Westside speaks for all of us, we must make them as a congregation also. We will be having conversations about safety often in the next few weeks. Please give deep consideration to all sides of these issues and join in these conversations. After our church sign on Grigsby Chapel Road was vandalized, we vowed to repair it and move forward as a welcoming congregation. It's taking a little time to accomplish that, but that is definitely still our goal. We will definitely celebrate Pride in 2 weeks, hopefully in ways that involve minimum risk. I am certain that we here at Westside will continue to let our light shine in East Tennessee. And so, with that in mind, our closing hymn is going to be "This Little Light of Mine." And I see everybody looking at their hymnals. We're not going to sing this with hymnals. We're just going out on all kinds of limbs today. So, you know it basically, and I'm going to try to call out the words for the next verse ahead of time, so just sing loudly. As Pete Seeger used to say, sing loud so you'll give your neighbor courage. So rise if you are willing and able, and let's sing "This Little Light of Mine." This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you. Okay, so remain standing. If you are comfortable holding hands, please do so, if you would like. If you're still letting your light shine, go ahead with that too. And remember, we will extinguish the flame of this chalice. If it hasn't gone out, no, it's doing well. We will extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we will hold in our hearts and spread into the world until we are together again. Go in peace. Oh, good.